Spotify is that one thing almost everyone uses to listen to music now. Yeah, sure, Spotify is the most broken piece of shit. They don't pay the artists for shit, and these dumb fuckers won't focus on making the app better, rather adding dumb shit no one asked for. Even with all that shit, Spotify works well, very well. It's just that sometimes it doesn't. Spotify has a really huge problem with albums just being straight missing, and it sucks because some of these albums happen to be some of the greatest fucking albums I've ever heard in my entire goddamn life. Some of these albums also happen to be fucking horrible, like Cold Lake. There's a multitude of reasons on why this can happen, one of which is that record label is being a record label, and yeah, some albums from artists like Slovenly just don't get any appearance at all on Spotify because the label straight up fucking refuses to reissue it, and it sucks because these albums are fucking great. A more well-known example of this case is probably Atheist, where they were just completely absent because nobody knew who owned what until like November 2022, where it was finally added back to Spotify. And then there's Roland's band, you know, the guys who made Low Self-Opinion with a frontman who has a neck that rivals that of Corpse Grinder. Yeah, most of their discography is completely missing on Spotify. I don't even know if it has anything to do with the label or Roland's just doesn't fucking like the band. But it's nice to see that some of the albums have come back to Spotify, so let's keep some high hopes. Some bands like Boris just don't have the digital rights for the albums at all. Some records from them like Drone Evil and Flood cannot be put onto streaming platforms because they're legally not allowed to. And it really goes to show how hard they work to just reissue the albums on vinyl. And it sucks too, because Flood is probably the greatest goddamn piece of recorded media I've ever heard in my entire goddamn life. And then there's some albums that don't even have the ability to be reissued, like that one Bootstrappers album. And then there's the extension of this where there's just a ton of copyright issues. Albums that had heavy use of sampling back when sampling was actually legal just can't be put onto Spotify because of the samples that were used in the albums. De La Soul only recently just got their albums back onto streaming platforms because of how it was just barely fucking legal to even reissue them in the first place. Some albums like Lysol by the Melvins literally couldn't even be released back in 1992, so it's no wonder that it's not on Spotify. And then there's the original Misfits albums and EPs that just can't be put on Spotify, alongside the entire Sam Hain discography since Danzig won't let anyone have the streaming rights for it. And then there's just the really shitty albums. Yeah, I know, it's not really a surprise, but some of these albums are genuinely worth listening to. I think the first album that comes to my mind being hidden because it's shit is Cold Lake by Celtic Frost. And thank fucking God, Spotify really can't handle being any worse than it is right now. Other albums like Prick by the Melvins, which I unironically fucking adore, and Bigger Than the Devil by SOD, which I think isn't even all that bad of an album, I'm gonna be honest, also aren't available on streaming platforms. The Voivod self-titled was so fucking bad the band never even decided to reissue it. And then there's the first 3 or 4 Pantera albums that have album covers that look like this, that are just not even considered actual albums in the Pantera discography. I mean, for good reason, look at this shit. And then there's those albums that have no fucking reason to not be on Spotify. Like, really? The best stuff to come out of Sodom aren't on fucking Spotify. Why? No. Like, it doesn't even make any logical fucking sense since the songs from the album are available on compilations and most of the albums that are on the same fucking label are on the goddamn platform. And then there's No Means Nowhere. I don't know if it has to do anything with the label or anything like that, but they are in the process of being fully reissued by Alternative Tentacles, so hey, that's nice. We've got one single. Most of the albums from the Cows just aren't on Spotify, even though most of the albums got completely reissued by AMREP. Also, the version of Cunning Stunts is fucking unacceptable. Alright, listen, don't ask why I'm using my fucking shitty-ass webcam mic. But okay, this issue of Cunning Stunts, right? Go here to Heave-Ho, right? It sounds fucking fine, but go to something like later on, like Terrifique, and then around like... What the fuck is this? They know too, because I have another fucking issue of it where it's just fucking fine. Yeah, what the fuck? It's the same thing for Honky by, yet again, the Melvins, where it has reissues from recent times, but doesn't get put onto streaming platforms. Maybe it's because 6 people like this album, but shut up. And then there's some people who just don't fucking like Spotify. I mean, for good reason. They don't fucking fix their shit, they pay nobody, and they already have like 8 albums to begin with. A prime example of this is Steve Albini just removing all of his shit that he's been involved with only from Spotify. Apparently he was sick of Spotify just not paying anybody anything, so he just decided, you know what? Fuck it! Nothing for anyone! He did leave it on places like Bandcamp, Deezer, and Apple Music, which, I'll be honest, I'm glad he did. Although he still lets you buy Big Black and Shellac, which are some of the best goddamn noise rock albums I've ever fucking heard, by the way. Although his albums may not be on Spotify, he has thankfully left the albums he's produced. The whole missing albums from Spotify thing really fucking sucks, as these albums happen to be some of the best of all time, and for the average Joe who only uses Spotify, it really sucks that they don't have the ability to re-listen to these or listen to them for the first time at all. Anyways, fuck Spotify, just use Soulseek or something.